Hired a housekeeper while traveling. What she revealed will leave you shocked and transformed. Sarah scanned her cluttered kitchen, feeling both excitement and dread swirl in her stomach. Tomorrow, she would finally attend an educational conference, a dream she'd held for years, clashing with the reality of being a devoted single mother. The thought of leaving her 2 children in the hands of someone else felt heavy, almost suffocating. What if they needed her? What if they felt abandoned? Pushing these fears aside, she reminded herself that this was her chance to showcase her innovative teaching methods, to finally be recognized for the hard work she poured into her students. She had posted an ad online, seeking help to manage her home during her brief absence. Maria, a housekeeper in her 40s, responded, fitting into the role with practiced efficiency. On the surface, their relationship was professional and distant, Sarah treating Maria with polite smiles and formal words. Yet, with every chore they completed around the house, the layer of emotional tension simmered a little closer to the surface. As they stacked dishes and wiped crumbs off the countertop, Maria began to share her past in brief snippets. "Back home, I taught young minds to find their voices," she said, her eyes reflecting a deep well of experience and sorrow. Sarah paused, feeling the weight of those words wash over her like a tide. They resonated with depths she feared could only be understood by someone who had truly lived through hardship. But as Maria continued, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of her own insecurities. Could she ever inspire others like Maria had? What if I fail? Came an internal whisper, gnawing at her confidence. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days of the conference approached, Sarah wrestled with her ambition and guilt like an unforgiving tug-of-war. The event promised leadership opportunities, but also festered a fear of being undermined, especially from Linda, her ambitious colleague, who always seemed to take delight in exposing her vulnerabilities. The anxiety gnawed at her. How could she stand up against someone who so effortlessly dismissed her hard work? With every encounter at the conference, Sarah felt simultaneously lost and revitalized, Maria's voice echoing in her mind like a mantra, "Honor your story." But would she? Would she find the strength to reclaim her narrative amidst the pressures that surrounded her? Then came that tense moment when Linda cornered Sarah in front of their peers, attempting to incite the very inadequacies Sarah feared most. "You shouldn't be here, Sarah," she sneered, attempting to unravel her confidence. But the words that had once left Sarah shaking now acted as a catalyst for confrontation. As the audience watched, a surge of clarity surged through her. She wouldn't let Linda define her worth. Just as adrenaline coursed through her, the anxiety was replaced with the audacity to speak up. Yet, beneath this newfound boldness lingered doubt. Would embracing her struggle make her a better teacher or isolate her further? The burden of Maria's past weighed heavily on her too. How could someone once esteemed now help scrub floors? Then came the unexpected phone call, shattering the momentum Sarah had begun to build. Maria's expression turned grave, her mysterious words swirling the air into uncertainty. This revelation loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to alter everything they had both begun to realize. And just as Sarah attempted to find her footing, the tension reached a fever pitch. Drawing them both into a decision that could change more than just their lives, it could shape the very way they saw themselves forever. Sarah's heart raced as Maria's solemn tone sank in, a desperate plea mingling with confusion. "I have to leave tomorrow," Maria declared, her voice creaking under the weight of her circumstance. "My daughter, she's in trouble back home." The initial wave of concern stung Sarah's chest. Maria's daughter was now playing the role of the emotionally distant specter, forcefully redirected attention away from Sarah's own dreams. This wasn't just news. It was a withdrawal from the fragile alliance they'd begun to forge, an alliance rooted in the shared burdens of motherhood and ambition. A knot twisted in Sarah's stomach. "But we still have the conference." "I need your help," she replied, unsure if the plea emerged from selfishness or necessity, perhaps both. Part of her felt abandoned, yet, another part recognized the strength in Maria's commitment to family, a reminder that staying true to one's core values often required sacrifices. The lessons twisted tightly around Sarah's own situation, making her uneasy. "I understand, Sarah. You must go, and I hope you shine." Maria's gaze was steady, bestowing Sarah with an urgency she hadn't expected. "You are more than you think. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." As Maria gathered her things, hastily preparing for her departure, Sarah's thoughts spiraled into uncertainty. What did it mean to shine in a world that continually overshadowed her efforts? Would she rise above the whispered judgments, the underlying mockery that Linda represented? With each passing hour, realization struck Maria might be leaving, but her parting gift was wisdom, piercing through Sarah's doubts. The emotional armor Maria donned as a single mother working 2 jobs surged a sense of kinship, an echo of resilience that Sarah now had to embody for herself. Moments before Maria left, Sarah surprised herself with a burst of boldness. "Can you at least give me your number? I might need guidance, someone to help remind me of that strength," she said, vulnerability threading through her voice. Maria offered a warm smile, the kind that emboldened Sarah. "You have everything within you. Just remember my words." With a final nod of acknowledgement, she stepped out the door, leaving an unfamiliar silence in her wake. Alone in the kitchen, Sarah revisited her mental notes for the conference. The air felt thick with possibility, yet apprehension hung heavy. As she prepped the documents designed to demonstrate her innovative strategies, the earlier encounter with Linda replayed in her mind. What would she say when faced with her sharp barbs again? She could no longer duck beneath them. It was time to face the storm. The next morning, anxiety began drifting out of reach, replaced with instead determination. Stepping onto the stage felt surreal. The spotlight beckoned like a siren song while the weight of expectation buzzed in her ears. She inhaled deeply, ready to utilize the opportunity not only to share her ideas but also to draw upon the strength manifesting within her. Before she could continue, the voice of doubt emerged. "They'll see you as a fraud. Just another overwhelmed single mom trying to do it all." Yet, she pushed that thought aside, standing taller. She didn't just embody a struggle, she represented a story, a series of choices, sacrifice, and ultimately, growth. As she opened her mouth to speak, the unexpected slam of the doors caught her attention. Linda stepped in, her presence instantly shifting the room's atmosphere. A smirk crawled across Linda's face, confident as ever. But beneath that facade, Sarah sensed a flicker of vulnerability mirrored in herself. The moment felt charged, heavy with anticipation. It was time to bridge the gap between fear and empowerment. What would Sarah reveal about her journey next? Would she rise to the occasion or let the tides of her insecurities sweep her back down? Amidst it all, one question loomed larger than others. What would it truly mean for her to conquer the stage? The harsh glare of the spotlight seemed less intimidating now, a beacon drawing Sarah's focus toward her purpose. Linda's presence threw her momentary composure off balance, that familiar trickle of self-doubt creeping in. She felt exposed, on the brink of understanding that every sneer Linda aimed her way was merely a reflection of Sarah's own fears. No more. No more hiding. She had taken this stage to embody her vision, to articulate the struggles of a single mother grasping for success, not to falter under critique. With a quick breath, she leaned into her message. "Good morning," she began, her voice resonating through the room, surprising even herself. "Today, I want to share a perspective one I believe many of you can relate to. It's about growth under pressure, the resilience that finds its roots in adversity." Sarah's heart swelled as she spoke, anchoring her ideas around the struggles faced by women like Maria. In her mental script, Maria's departure became a symbol of the strength she had to embody, both personally and professionally. Every resonant word pushed through her fears, fueling the clarity of her ambitions. Eyes were turned toward her, some filled with skepticism, others in admiration. She noticed a few nods from women who, like her, were juggling careers with the heavy weight of motherhood. The initial dismissiveness from Linda shifted to annoyance, a choreography of conflict flashing through the room. As mothers, she continued, we often face societal pressures to conform, to choose between nurturing our families and pursuing our careers. But these roles are not mutually exclusive, they can support each other in extraordinary ways. With each passing moment, she felt a shift within herself, the echo of Maria's words resonating deep within her core. Fear transformed into a catalyst, fortifying her message rather than undermining it. With increasing poise, she introduced her strategies, drawing upon both her professional insights and personal stories, building trust with the audience. Yet, Linda's laughter cut through at opportune moments, a jarring reminder of old insecurities lurking in the shadow. But Sarah was no longer the woman she once was, driven by the need for validation. She could only interpret Linda's interruptions as attempts to regain control over a narrative she had already started to rewrite. In that instant, a thought crystallized: confrontation didn't equate to aggression. Instead, it was the art of articulating one's own truths, refusing to bow under the weight of prejudice. Linda, Sarah addressed her directly, allowing her voice to take on a challenging tone. You might believe that a single mother's journey is fraught with incompetence, but I assure you, my experiences have equipped me with unmatched resilience. I invite you to consider the stories we might not see. The silence that ensued felt electric, an acknowledgement, both from the audience and within herself. It was a moment of reclamation. The stage was not just a platform but a ground for her liberation. As she wound down her presentation, the applause that erupted around her felt like a warm embrace. The energy of the room shifted, swelling with potential, where once stood doubt and skepticism. But deep inside, Sarah knew the fight wasn't over. The battle against her own insecurities and Linda's dismissive facade had only just begun. What persistent footholds of self-doubt were still hidden in the corners of her mind? The journey to embrace her ability to lead was only halfway realized. Sudden tension erupted when Linda stood to speak, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she challenged Sarah directly. That sounds noble, but can you truly handle this pressure long-term? Or is it just a fleeting moment of inspiration? The challenge hung in the air, thick with the potential for confrontation. It felt like a swing at her confidence, but Sarah was no longer the woman who merely deflected. You underestimate me, she realized, flipping the narrative to her favor. It's not inspiration that drives me, it's the choice to own my path. An exhilarating realization surged within her. This was not just about surviving the conference, it was about thriving in her truth amid adversity. What lay ahead in this battle against Linda promised to redefine her boundaries. Would Sarah find the strength to carry it through, or would she retreat into doubt once more? The hum of whispered conversations filled the air, a blend of hesitant admiration and skepticism. Sarah felt the weight of every pair of eyes on her, a reminder that her moment in the limelight came with its own set of challenges. Linda's piercing question echoed in her mind, lingering like an unwelcome shadow. It wasn't just skepticism now, it was a gauntlet thrown at her feet. Determined not to linger in uncertainty, Sarah stepped away from the elevated platform, her heart racing. She needed to cultivate this momentum, this newfound strength. The audience was still buzzing with emotion, and she found herself yearning for deeper connections. Disregarding the coldness radiating from Linda, she focused instead on the warm burner of connection ignited among the supportive faces. She approached a small group gathered near the refreshment table. Their agreement had resonated during her speech. She could see that reflected in their expressions. "Thank you for your support," she said, transforming her nervous energy into engagement. "I hope you found my message valuable." One woman, her curly hair bouncing with excitement, nodded vigorously. "You really spoke to me. Juggling work and family feels sometimes like I'm in a circus act. But you made it sound like we can do it all. We just need to own our narrative." "Exactly," Sarah replied, her enthusiasm building. "It's all about removing the stigma attached to our roles. We definitely don't have to choose between them when they can elevate each other." As they exchanged ideas, Sarah's confidence burgeoned. A woman standing beside her shared her own struggles, the weight of guilt embedded in the decision to work late while missing her child's milestones. Sarah couldn't help but see so much of herself in that story. Every revelation issued from that place of vulnerability was a testament to her commitment to growth. She began to outline potential workshops, spaces where women could meet, share, and empower each other with concrete strategies to navigate their dual responsibilities. The energy around her shifted again, as if igniting a shared spark of hope. And then, as the women connected, an unexpected voice chimed in. But what about those who fail? It was Linda again, her tone dripping with derision. You talk about strength, but doesn't failure loom over every decision you make? What makes you so sure your approach will work long-term? Linda's question hung heavily in the air, pressing down on Sarah's newfound elevation. Recognizing that this confrontation was crucial not just for her image but for her personal growth, she stepped forward with resolve. Failure is a part of growth, Linda. It's not a reason to hold back, it's a component of success. Learning from our failures is how we redefine our journey. Is that so wrong? The challenge now felt invigorating. She was no longer on the defensive, she was igniting a discussion, daring to speak up for herself and others. Internal insights bubbled up, affirming her new identity as a leader. Wasn't every setback merely a chance to recalibrate her narrative? The room hushed, everyone leaning in, entranced by the interplay of vulnerability and strength. Sarah could feel the shift, a palpable energy resonating as she challenged Linda's perception. In this moment, she realized she was ready to commit to her path, not just as a mother or a professional but as an advocate for resilience. But the battle against her own fears wasn't over. Deep-seated insecurities remained, waiting to rear their heads under pressure. Behind the exhilaration lay an undercurrent of anxiety. What had she ignited with her challenge? Had she truly broken free, or was this just another fleeting moment of courage before the inevitable doubt washed in? As Sarah stepped away from the crowd, her heart still racing, she sensed another confrontation lurking just around the corner more than just Linda. It was the confrontation with her own limitations. She understood this talk was just the beginning, real transformation awaited. What truths about herself hadn't she yet faced? Sarah felt the pull, the reality of the challenging road ahead. It was time to dive deeper, not into the applause of today, but into the uncharted territories of her own potential. How far would she go to discover the depth of her resilience? Stepping away from the buzz and the invested glances was supposed to bring relief, but instead, Sarah felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The adrenaline coursing through her veins, once exhilarating, was now a reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over her. Had she crafted an authentic discussion or merely painted over her insecurities with bravado? In the quiet corners of her mind, Linda's questions replayed, echoing not only in her heart but also surfacing the complex truths she had yet to face. Did she really believe in her ability to inspire others if she struggled to inspire herself? At that moment, she sought refuge in the dimly lit corridor outside the bustling room, the sounds muffled but still present, a distant reminder of the world she was slowly revealing herself to. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and anchored herself in the present. With each inhale, she sought clarity, and with each exhale, she tried to release the self-doubt. What she had ignited in the group wasn't just a discussion about roles, it was a raw exploration of ambition and the scars each woman wore from societal expectations. She had to believe that these connections mattered and would be the foundation upon which she could build something meaningful. What turned the wheel inside her was the realization that she wasn't just a voice, she was becoming a conduit for others to share their battles. Sarah envisioned those workshops not merely as events, but as sanctuaries for growth and healing. They would be places where voice met vulnerability, where the complexities of multitasking mothers and ambitious professionals intersected organically. However, was this vision valid enough to combat her inner turmoil? She could not allow herself to wither under the mere strain of anticipated failure. This pervasive guilt should not define her. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone and began typing up thoughts that swirled in her head. Each word was an anchor, pulling her closer to the woman she aspired to be, creating a roadmap toward tangible change. But then another wave of doubt washed over her. What if these plans unraveled like a house of cards when faced with reality? What if she fell short of what she promised herself and others? The fear tempted her to pull back, to conceal her ambitions beneath a veneer of normalcy, but she refused to let that happen. Instead, she decided to reach out for help. Her thoughts raced with the idea of assembling a collective of mentors, women who had navigated their struggles and emerged stronger. This was about more than a singular journey, it was a call to foster a network of resilience. She could lean on their experiences while sharing her own, creating a space that transcended just her voice. This was becoming a movement, a bond that could supersede personal fear. As she made notes, the pen gliding across the paper, she knew she had begun a thing larger than herself. Inspired, each stroke became a testament to her evolving mindset. But in the midst of creation, the voice of Linda cut through once again, sharp and defined, casting shadows over her exhilaration. "Who do you think you are, Sarah?" It echoed through her thoughts. "Are you really prepared for the weight of leadership, or is this just a fantasy? Will you crumble when faced with real criticism?" With her breath hitching in her throat, Sarah closed her notebook and stood up. She felt the pull of that upcoming confrontation with herself looming larger than ever. Today had scratched the surface of her fears, but the battle for her self-worth was just beginning. Before she reached for the door, a single thought crystallized in her mind. How could she validate her worthiness when the journey ahead was an unknown? But she knew one thing for certain, she wouldn't shy away from testing herself. Building this platform meant facing not only the forces outside but also the tempest within. As she stepped back into the chatter, certainty glimmered amidst the uncertainty. A new chapter awaited, one where she would face Linda again, but also confront her hardest opponent herself. What would it take to own her journey completely, despite the fear? Her heart raced, the determination ignited. The path ahead was algorithmic, and she could feel its complexity. It was time to redefine not only her narrative but the image she held of her potential. Stepping back into the vibrant atmosphere, Sarah felt a palpable shift within her. The voices, once overwhelming, began to sound like a chorus rather than a cacophony. Yet behind that newfound sense of solidarity lingered the gnawing sensation of doubt. Could she truly be the pillar of support she envisioned, or was she merely constructing her dreams on shaky ground? Her heart raced as she scanned the room, noting the faces that had once felt so distant but now seemed full of potential. Each woman represented a battle, a story, and a spark waiting to ignite. She had called upon them to share their experiences. Now, it was her turn to step into the light. Sarah took a deep breath, resolving to own the vulnerability that had previously paralyzed her. There was power in authenticity, and while fear loomed, she knew she had the ability to transform it into a tool for growth. She pivoted on her heel to face a small group gathered in the corner, ready to launch into a conversation that could shift the dynamics of the group. Can we explore not just the challenges we face but the victories, too? The question hung in the air, charged with possibility. Their eyes lit up, eager to both contribute to and be a part of the conversation. It was a profound moment of realization. Her doubt was not a barrier but a bridge to connect more meaningfully. As discussions unfolded, Sarah felt the weight of her self-criticism begin to dissipate, replaced with an awareness that her journey mirrored theirs. They shared tales of resilience that inspired strength within her. The vulnerabilities expressed in that circle validated her own, transforming the room into an incubator for possibility. She realized then that leading wasn't just about having the answers, it was about cultivating an environment where others could flourish alongside her. Moved by the stories she heard, she began jotting down key themes, a workshop framework that organically tied together their unique narratives. Each note reinforced her purpose. She was not just thinking about what she wanted to present but genuinely listening to the voices that had gathered. Her vision was expanding, evolving from a solitary ambition into a collaborative masterpiece. Yet, amid the excitement of creation, Linda's whisper invaded. "You can't even solve your own doubts, Sarah. How can you guide others?" The very specter that had plagued her resurfaced, casting a shadow over the growing camaraderie in the room. In a moment of clarity, Sarah realized that she needed to confront Linda head-on. "You're not my reality, you're just a warning." The internal dialogue shifted. It was a pivotal recognition that empowerment starts within. She mentally catalogued difficult moments, knowing these would provide the insights necessary to champion others down the path she was forging. As the conversation continued, the sensations of temptation faded. Instead, she felt the adrenaline of purpose. Determined to unleash her vision fully, she resolved to reach out to those mentors she envisioned earlier, embracing their wisdom while sharing her own discoveries. She smiled inwardly. She could feel her narrative transforming from a tale of isolation into a collective journey. But as her excitement mounted, so did the trepidation. Would these mentors resonate with the narrative she was constructing? Would they see her as who she was growing into, rather than the remnants of self-doubt that still lingered? In that moment, she felt a surge of urgency for action. She would set up a meeting with her mentors in the coming week. That would be the test of her commitment to this burgeoning vision. Could she communicate her goals clearly? Would they provide validation or ignite more uncertainty? As Sarah stepped back into the flow of the gathering, her heart thrummed with a mixture of excitement and fear. The road ahead was filled with encounters she needed to face, not just with those she hoped to lead but also with the mentors whose insights could bring her understanding to greater heights. With her heart in her throat, she realized she was at the brink of something transformative, where the line between leader and learner blurred. Would her outreach fortify her journey, or would it unravel in ways she couldn't anticipate? The moment had arrived to confront those who could guide her and perhaps even propel her past her fears. In the days leading up to her meetings with the mentors, Sarah found herself oscillating between eagerness and apprehension. The idea of sitting across from experienced professionals, poised to share her evolving vision, ignited both inspiration and anxiety within her. She poured herself into preparation, gathering insights and refining her ideas, but the nagging voice of self-doubt lingered each time she rehearsed. Linda's echo taunted her. "Is this really all you've got?" It jeered. Determined, she redirected that agitation into productivity. Rather than allow it to deter her, Sarah channeled her inner critic into motivation, a ruthless yet useful ally in her corner. There was potential in transformation, she reminded herself, if only she dared to exploit it. The day of her first mentorship meeting arrived with a warm sun casting golden light through her window. She took a moment to breathe deeply, grounding herself before setting out, acutely aware that this was her moment not just for validation but to solidify her own identity as a leader. Her mind raced with the scenarios that could play out: condemnation, indifference, or, perhaps, understanding. As she walked into the cafe where her first mentor, Janet, awaited, she felt her heart pounding against her ribcage. Janet was an industry stalwart, a woman whose wisdom ran deeper than her accolades. Sarah had always viewed her as someone unattainable, yet she had recently expressed a willingness to nurture new talent. Sarah ordered a coffee, her hands shaking slightly. When Janet greeted her with a warm smile, Sarah forced herself to reciprocate despite the whirlwind in her mind. They exchanged pleasantries, but the moment Janet leaned back in her chair and asked, "What brings you here today?" Sarah's breath hitched. This was the question she was prepared for, yet the weight of it felt monumental. "I want to create a platform for sharing stories of resilience," Sarah began, her voice steadying as she spoke. "I believe we all have experiences that can empower others. But I'm uncertain on how to frame it and make it significant." Janet's expression shifted from curiosity to intrigue. "What if I told you that your uncertainty is part of the process? Every impactful initiative stems from a little chaos." Sarah nodded, absorbing this wisdom. It was a breath of relief, a crack in the wall that Linda had constructed within her mind. They delved into spirited discussions, with Sarah presenting her workshop framework and Janet providing constructive feedback. Each revised idea felt like a thread weaving a stronger fabric of confidence around her. As they polished the framework together, Sarah felt the echoes of self-doubt grow quieter. She was unraveling Linda's grip, stone by stone. When the meeting ended, Sarah left the cafe with a buoyant sense of momentum. But as she walked towards her next meeting, excitement shifted to a dense reality, creeping in like shadows at dusk. What if her next mentor didn't have the same openness? Her rendezvous with Tom, an analytical strategist renowned for his blunt assessments, loomed ahead. He was known to absent of sentiment, often prioritizing data over narrative. Would Sarah's burgeoning vision withstand such scrutiny? Or would his cold pragmatism crush the fragile aspirations she had begun to cultivate? As she entered the bustling office space where Tom worked, the air thickened with a mix of anticipation and dread. She steeled herself, knowing this interaction would demand the utmost clarity and conviction. "Time to confront not just your vision, but yourself," she whispered under her breath, stepping into what she knew could either be a validation or a crucible. The moment had arrived. Could she manage the bridge between passion and pragmatism? What revelations about her aspirations would this meeting unveil, and would she emerge stronger, or would doubt claw back into the forefront? Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she sat across from Tom, the polished corner office radiating an air of sterile professionalism. The stark, modern furniture contrasted sharply with the warmth she had experienced in her previous meeting. She forced herself to breathe deeply, desperately seeking a semblance of calm. Tom leaned back, arms crossed, scrutinizing her with an analytical glare that felt like a sharp beam of light exposing all her vulnerabilities. "So," he began, his voice steady and unfaltering, "you want to create a platform. But tell me, what data supports this idea? Why should anyone care?" The question hit her like a punch. She was prepared for critiques, even skepticism, but Tom's cold pragmatism felt relentless. Silencing the rising panic within, Sarah tapped into the energy she had gained from her conversation with Janet. "People care because stories have power," she asserted, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. "Data might show trends, but at the heart of every statistic is a human experience. This platform aims to connect those experiences. The resilience of others can inspire action." Tom raised an eyebrow, a subtle shift hinting at intrigue, but he was far from convinced. "That's a compelling narrative, but what metrics will you use to measure success?" The shift in his focus from vision to numbers sent a ripple of anxiety through her, but Sarah leaned into it, shifting gears in her mind. "I plan to collect stories, analyze engagement, and use surveys to demonstrate impact." The words rolled off her tongue, each one necessary to support her case. Success won't just be in numbers, it will be in the testimonials of those whose lives are changed. A sense of empowerment surged through her. She was no longer simply defending her idea, she was asserting its validity against the tide of skepticism. However, Tom wasn't easily swayed. Testimonials are subjective. You need robust, quantifiable data to back your claims, or your entire project risks being dismissed as fluff. His words hung in the air, heavy and resolute. She felt the familiar voice of self-doubt clawing its way back. Could she truly make this vision a reality? Just as despair threatened to consume her, a thought crystallized in her mind. What if she repositioned her challenge into an opportunity? "Tom," she said, her voice more assertive, "perhaps I'm not just seeking approval for an idea. I'm also looking for your expertise. If I'm going to build something meaningful, I want to do it right. What methodologies would you recommend to solidify both my narrative and the data to support it?" His expression shifted slightly, surprise mingling with calculated consideration. For the first time, he seemed to consider her not just as a novice seeking affirmation, but as a peer interested in growth. "Now that's a better frame," he replied, leaning forward. "Let's talk about some frameworks you might consider." Sarah sat a little taller, charging into a discussion of methodologies, exploring the potential frameworks she could adapt. Each suggestion Tom offered ignited a string of ideas within her, illuminating pathways she hadn't considered before. The atmosphere began to shift, his earlier skepticism tempered by the spark of innovation that was now evident in their conversation. As the meeting progressed, she found herself caught in a rhythm, bouncing ideas back and forth with Tom, his earlier severity replaced with an intellectual engagement she hadn't anticipated. They explored various metrics, discussing the balance between quantitative data and qualitative stories, crafting a vision that felt increasingly tangible. Yet beneath the external excitement stirring within her, a flicker of self-doubt still lingered, haunting the edges of her consciousness. Had she really earned Tom's respect, or was this merely a fleeting moment of connection in a sea of skepticism? When their time concluded, Sarah left the office charged, yet with the persistent weight of uncertainty. The exhilarating blend of encouragement and critique drummed in her veins, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. As she walked away, bolstered yet apprehensive, a question loomed: could she continue to harness Tom's logical frameworks without sacrificing the integrity of her narrative? Could she trust in her vision enough to challenge the data-dominated dialogue surrounding her? With newfound resolve, Sarah blocked out her doubts. It was time to go deeper beyond mere narratives and numbers, to truly confront the realities that lay beneath the stories waiting to be told. The next challenge would bring her face to face with not just the metrics of success, but with the purpose that fueled her ambition. But would that purpose be strong enough against the harsh glare of reality? The next meeting would be pivotal, demanding her to balance her emotional convictions with the hard truths she would need to confront. The next morning, Sarah's alarm shattered the stillness, shaking her from a restless sleep. The thrill of yesterday's meeting lingered, yet so did the weight of uncertainty. Sitting on the edge of her bed, she grappled with thoughts racing through her mind. How could she elevate her platform beyond ambition and into actionable reality? The pulse of her vision beat strongly, but the path ahead felt obscured by fog. After a hurried breakfast, she settled at her desk, a swirl of documents and notebooks surrounding her like a fortress of ideas. With each passing moment, the urgency of clarity settled heavy on her shoulders. Sarah opened her laptop and began drafting a plan, her fingers dancing over the keys, but hesitations clawed at her confidence. What methodologies should she leverage? Which stories deserve to be heard? As the sun filtered through her window, it ignited a spark in her chest. She envisioned a team not just advisors, but storytellers who could bring a diverse array of experiences to the platform. Would pooling these voices not only substantiate her claims but propel the project into something more impactful? With that thought, Sarah grabbed her phone and began making calls. The first few were met with polite rejections. Disinterest or busyness took over, leaving her feeling sidelined in a game she yearned to play. Yet, her frustration transformed into determination. Each no became a stepping stone. She rethought her approach, focusing on those with shared visions instead of distant skeptics. Eventually, she secured a meeting with a local media producer known for spotlighting grassroots movements. The moment she hung up, excitement coursed through her veins. If she could convince them of her vision, it could provide the visibility she desperately needed. The day of the meeting arrived, and Sarah donned her best professional attire. She took a moment before entering the producer's office, inhaling deeply to center herself. It was a small room filled with vibrant art, but the energy was palpable. Sitting across from her was a woman radiating confidence and creativity. The contrast to Tom's analytical demeanor was immediate and striking. With buzzing electricity in the air, Sarah articulated her vision, weaving the threads of human experience amidst factual data as she had practiced with Tom. As she spoke, she saw the producer nodding, her attention unwavering. Finally, Sarah outlined her plan for collecting stories, blending both qualitative and quantitative approaches. The producer's eyes lit up as she leaned forward, intrigued. This is compelling. But how will you ensure diverse representation? The question was pointed, yet an invitation to dive deeper. Sarah felt a flicker of anxiety but quickly quelled it, determined to turn this into an opportunity. Diversity is my top priority. I want individuals from various backgrounds to share their lived experiences. It is their resilience that will connect with others. She paused, gauging the producer's interest. Collaborating with local organizations might help. The producer smiled, reflecting a shared sense of purpose. This has the potential to resonate, she stated, her voice warm but evaluating. But it's crucial to clearly articulate what success looks like. Metrics should drive your narrative, not just support it. As they brainstormed on implementation strategies, Sarah felt elation rise within her. Ideas flowed, and her confidence grew. The conversation had shifted into collaboration, sparking creativity and mutual respect. Yet, in the back of her mind, the shadows of doubt whispered. Was she truly capable of guiding this narrative toward a holistic and inclusive approach? After the meeting, exhilaration battled restlessness within her. Had she impressed the producer enough? More critically, could she fulfill the promise of this project, transforming abstract ideals into tangible realities? Determined to quell her anxiety, Sarah leaned into her newfound momentum. She began drafting an outline of her next steps, stitching together the methodologies and stories she had yet to uncover. The challenge was formidable, yet she found clarity in her mission, building a narrative that not only spoke but also echoed, one that could drive real impact through the stories she collected. Yet, as she advanced with newfound momentum, Sarah understood that the next steps would demand more than just determination. She would have to confront potential criticisms with conviction and balance her emotional vision against the responses she still feared. As the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating her workspace in golden hues, she realized the journey had just begun. What if the very stories driving her platform were the same ones fueling her greatest conflicts? Each reflection summoned a new question: how could vulnerability become a strength rather than a liability in her mission? With questions swirling in her mind, Sarah felt both anticipation and trepidation. The path lay before her, daunting yet exhilarating. She had begun to envision not only a project but the potential for profound self-discovery, and her next meeting with the producer loomed closer. Would she find the resolve to face the truths hidden within her own narrative as she explored the stories she aimed to amplify? The atmosphere in Sarah's office was charged with anticipation as she finalized her presentation for the producer's second meeting. Her workspace was now filled with charts, testimonials, and a clear plan to engage the diverse perspectives that defined her mission. The once daunting task had morphed into a tangible vision, extending beyond mere ambition. It was a call to ignite a collective journey through storytelling. Arriving at the media office, Sarah's nerves mingled with an undeniable surge of confidence. The vibrant artwork that had initially put her on edge now seemed to reflect the essence of her mission. She took a deep breath as she stepped into the conference room, her heart racing with a blend of excitement and purpose. "I'm ready," she thought, aligning her focus on the power of shared narratives. As she launched into her presentation, she could feel the energy in the room shift. The producer's gaze was intent, drawing her in and prompting her to share not just plans, but her authentic understanding of the importance of resilience in storytelling. "Success will depend on how effectively we can express the incredible journeys of those who fight against the odds," she asserted, channeling the lessons she had gathered throughout her own whirlwind. Sarah felt the earlier fears echoing in her mind of appearing unworthy or inadequately prepared slowly dissipating, replaced by a sense of resolve. As she connected diverse data points to personal stories, the producer nodded, clearly engaged. "Your passion is palpable, Sarah," she remarked midway. "But how will you ensure the visibility and reach needed to sustain these narratives over time?" This insightful challenge fired Sarah up. It pushed her to affirm her belief that their stories deserved amplification. By forming partnerships with local organizations and influencers, we can establish a robust network. Beyond metrics, we can create an impact strategy focused on community involvement, encouraging participants to actively engage through workshops and discussions. The producers seemed intrigued, encouraging Sarah to elaborate, and their momentum built organically. Ideas flowed freely as they explored potential outreach strategies, crafting a vision that felt collaborative. Sarah's confidence burgeoned, transforming the space from a place filled with uncertainty to one defined by possibility. However, just as the conversation reached a fervent high, doubt's familiar whisper returned: "Will this truly resonate? Can your message effectively reach the audiences that matter?" It was a subtle self-sabotage craving her unwarranted attention. Determined not to yield, Sarah leaned into her vision. These stories are not mere anecdotes. They are transformative experiences that can inspire action. Every participant will serve as an ambassador for the project, advocating for the collective narrative. In doing so, we are empowering them while broadening our reach. With renewed zeal, she interwove her anxieties into concrete action strategies. The meeting ended on an encouraging note, and as she left the office, Sarah felt lighter than she had in days. Had her growth transcended the confines of just building a platform, elevating her to a place of advocacy and humility? Her journey became less about silencing Linda's doubt and more about amplifying the voices that resonated with her own struggles, a beautiful echo of strength that knit together ambition with vulnerability. In the weeks that followed, Sarah created workshops that fostered a safe space for storytelling. By engaging diverse communities, she built a platform that felt deep-rooted, not just a collection of stories, but a vibrant tapestry of resilience that inspired, connected, and uplifted. Each story shared sparked the flame of empowerment, creating a ripple effect that spread beyond her expectations. Sarah found herself not only as a leader but as a listener and learner, all elements aligning within her like the notes of a powerful symphony. Months later, she stood on stage at a community gathering, her heart racing as the weight of the moment pressed against her. She shared her own story, weaving in the lessons learned from Maria and the countless voices that echoed through her created platform. It struck her like a wave. This was not just a moment of personal achievement but of connection, bringing a sense of home to her narrative. She had conquered her fears, embracing uncertainty as a vital part of her journey. Her message reverberated through the crowd, igniting both inspiration and encouragement. As she concluded, the applause roared like a tidal wave, reminding her that her journey was a collective one. The standing ovation marked not only her accomplishments but set the stage for all those whose stories she had uplifted. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she accepted the admiration, a validation of her growth, a true metamorphosis from uncertainty into empowerment. She was no longer just a single mother grappling with self-doubt. She was a beacon, embodying courage and resilience in every sense. Ultimately, she had not only secured her role as a leader but also reaffirmed her position as a champion of stories, a testament that shared narratives could elevate voices from the shadows into the light. In that moment of celebration, she understood one crucial truth: harnessing the heart of vulnerability had transformed her not only into a storyteller but a force for connection and achievement that resonated far beyond numbers or accolades. Now was the time to invite others into this experience, to spread the impact that true connection can ignite. It was time to act. You need to subscribe now to the channel, ensuring you never miss exclusive emotional stories like Sarah's transformative tale. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help these powerful stories reach those who need them the most. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are on their own journey of overcoming obstacles. Together, we can create a community empowered by resilience. Your voice matters. Join us in this transformative dialogue.